Coming up, it's the beginning of the end. Join us as we dissect The Boys Season 5, Episodes 1 and 2. Stay tuned.
We said no. We said enough. We said not in America. And together we soared into a new golden dawn.
Welcome to the Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. And we are your hosts, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. Before we get started, do not forget to hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up, and that bell. That way you know when all these videos are dropping. Tex, how you doing today?
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. The Boys. Man, so season 5, the final season of The Boys on Prime Video. Now we're picking up sometime after the fourth season. We saw Huey and the titular boys being captured by Vought and all sorts of stuff. And now with this final season, it's truly endgame. Like, it's truly like, things are really, really bad. Unfortunately, looking a little too realistic in some ways. Like, we'll
Tell
get
me
into
about it,
that. I
man.
Yeah,
These
yeah, we'll get
superhero shows, man, hitting close to home these days, dude.
yeah, like first we had Daredevil Born Again doing the whole thing, and then now we have this one, and it's like, all right, it's one of those things where it's like, it's unfortunately that means this season is going to be a bummer, and that's unfortunately like that's the case with final seasons in general, right? A lot of the time it's like, everyone knows it's ending, the story's ending, and in this one in particular, Homelander has basically won. He now has control over the entire United States. And Vought has like basically every like authoritarian thing you can think of they've done. Like we've gotten teases that they've wiped out pretty much all organizations that like government organizations. They're they are controlling the media in terms of what they get and controlling social media through like teenage superheroes, all sorts of stuff. And that's kind of the crux for this season. Homelander has won. The boys are just trying to survive. They've been locked away in these internment camps for all intents and purposes. And that's where we're at. Billy's still trying to get the virus off the ground and all that, as we saw in the fourth season and a little bit in Gen V. But now it's finally time to see how everything's going to go down, right? And like these so Prime started off with the first two episodes. We are going to go full spoilers with this premiere, just to reactions. If you haven't seen them yet, please go check them out. If you haven't seen any of our past talks about the boys, please go check out the Morgue. We've got tons of seasons that we've talked about. We've spoken at length before we get in here. So Arturo, how are you feeling about these premieres, like these premiere episodes so far? Like, how are you feeling about this season?
Boy, oh boy, Tex. They dropped a couple of hefty ones on us this past week, and they are full of information.
Yeah,
And all of these, both these episodes are just there's so much information in these episodes about what's going on and where everything's going that they're so captivating. I remember when I signed on, I saw the length of the episodes. I was like, okay, cool, we're hitting almost an hour here. So let's see what's up. And then I was like, I need to see the second one. I couldn't stop watching because I was so invested in this story. As Tex mentioned, we are here at the end game now. We've seen years of the boys and we've talked all about that stuff. Go check that out in our archives. Like, subscribe, and share, please. And this one, Tex, seems to be going um just the way I expected things to go this season. The boys, Butcher and his boys, are definitely in it for, oh, dude, I can't even describe how much of an obstacle they have in front of them. As Tex mentioned, Homelander is Vought now. He's just shy of calling himself ruler of the uh, pretty much the world. And everybody works for him. The president works for him. Everybody below the president works for him. He's just in full control of the country and in full control of the media. And anyone who says something bad about Homelander is going to get taken. He is in full control of absolutely every kind of authority that there is. One bad word about Homelander, you're done. It's not even about Vought anymore. It's about Homelander. We've
Yeah.
gotten to the
Yeah.
point where this show completely, I think we've said it before, like it's just completely leaned towards Homelander and everything revolving around Homelander. And I was telling Tex a little off air, a little peek under the sheet here, that I think that they didn't expect this Homelander character to be this good and Anthony Starr to actually be able to um uh, withstand the weight of this pressure that he has on his shoulders. And he's taken this character, and as evil and despicable as Homelander is, he's a home name now. Everybody knows about Homelander.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because he clearly is like a monster and he's clearly like the villain, right? But then like you see so much of this show in general and in these first two episodes too, where it's like the more interesting story is the Homelander side of things, right? Because it's like, it's a guy who controls the world but still isn't happy, and he still isn't like, because it's not what he wants, right? He doesn't necessarily want control, he wants love, right? And that's been his thing from the very beginning, and that's what makes him so interesting, like as a character, because he's hollow and he's searching for that piece that he doesn't have, that he like didn't have through like his terrible upbringing. But at the same time, like, you're also not going to be like, oh, look at him differently, right? You're not going to pity him in any way. And you're not going to like, oh, this is the path to redemption for Homelander because we understand so much of what made him a monster, right? No, it's like, no, you kind of want to see what this terrible person, like how he acts and like and decides things. And like, so I guess the biggest thing we can address so far is in the premiere, right? We got our first big kill of the season, first big death of the boys season 5 of this final season. And it's of A Train. And we've seen in previous seasons that A Train's been building up to this point where he like is fully against Homelander. He's been scared of him this whole time. He's been on the run. He even joined the Star Ladders and all that efforts a bit, just a little bit. And as we saw in Gen V as well. But with this season, the premiere really like sticks it around. Like, no, he's been on the run this whole time. He's been doing his own thing. He's been trying to save his family, and finally, he comes to decision to like fully take on Homelander, and it results in his death. And while that's a good scene for the two of them, right? Like it's good on A Train. He gets a good finale, good send off, good on an actor too. Like it was a cool thing, but
Yeah.
ultimately he knew how to get under Homelander's skin. And that's what it is. Like, yes, it's a big character death, but also it's in function of giving us yet another good look at Homelander. And we see how and then we see him react to it. Like when he's speaking to Adrian's coffin, like he's like, oh, I gave this to you. I gave you the world. And it's like, I like the older brother talk, right?
Yeah.
Of like, no, you're his murderer. But from Homeland, it's just like, it's so interesting to see that, oh yeah, he just wants a family, and that results in his father coming back, and
Yeah.
the whole soldier boy of it all, who's been in the cryogenic tube since I think it was season 3. I want to say, I don't even know if it was season 4. I can't remember when he was really in it. It might have been season 4.
Cause I know he killed Maeve, and I think that was in season 3. Yeah, when he
Yeah,
killed Maeve. Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like he's been on ice since then.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
conquest of this universe.
Yeah, yeah, just just a shout out to Invincible, like the character who makes a maximum impact with like, oh, when you think about it, he's really only been in like 2-3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And with Soldier Boy here, Homelander, brings him back and wakes him back up because he wants that familial connection, and we're gonna see how that works out. And it's it's just so interesting
Yeah.
because he,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
right, like
I
he's
definitely agree, especially with the whole A Train of it all.
yeah,
RIP A Train, man. He definitely had a fantastic character arc. If you think about
yeah,
when we first met A Train in season 1, literally running through Huey's girlfriend, to when we see him here, in season 5, in the during his demise, when you see the character be different when he sees somebody in the middle of the road. he recognizes that and completely stops, and that is his undoing. That's how Homelander eventually catches him at the end of the episode. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, awesome Superman Flash kind of thing. Whole
Right.
scene there was really well done. I really liked the way they did that, especially in such a dark kind of environment because they were flying and running through the forest. It was well shot. It looked great. The CG looked great. But A Train, I love the fact that his character arc came to a close the way it did because, as you said, Tex, he knows how to get under Homelander's skin. He understands that Homelander is just a shell of a person, and he says it. He's like, "Hey, outside of this costume, you're nothing, dude. Like, this is all you have. You are this facade, this Homelander facade. There's nothing inside of this outside of what people already know." And that goes back to A Train's theme and his arc, where he isn't a hero at first. He's just one of the bad ones. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, he gets a higher calling. He saves his brother in this park and some other children from a shooter or whatever it was, but he becomes a legit hero. And the ending he gets is so perfect because he ends it with a smile. And still smiling in the face of death, in the face of Homelander, who thinks that he can use his power to completely do whatever he needs. And A Train showed him, hey, like, you have all this power and it's nothing still at the end of the day. You're
Yeah.
nothing.
It's so funny, right? Like bringing that part up too, because you see the Deep, right? And the Deep also garbage person, right? Like just
Yes.
a despicable human or
Yes.
super being, just a despicable person. And it's now seeing him through this light, right? In the same way that we see A Train, because that's the whole thing in the premiere too, where A Train's like, look, I get you're just doing this because you're so scared of
Hmm.
Homelander. And like,
Great
it's
scene that was
true.
too. Hmm.
Yeah, it's true because it's getting to him. And part of you is like, come on, Deep. But at the same time, it's like, no, you understand that that guy is also an awful human being. So I'm curious to see how that develops because it is a different arc from A Train. Because A Train, yes, A Train was also an awful human being that didn't care that he ran through somebody, but also he did kind of care, right? Like there was a little bit of difference. There's a
Yeah,
difference
eventually it
between
caught up
like
to him for sure.
yeah, like there's a difference between what he did compared to like what the Deep did and what made Deep such a despicable person.
Yeah.
But like, and also Deep is much more pathetic in characterization too. So like that's a whole other thing. Well,
His
you know,
whole
maybe
character arc is absolutely insane.
yeah, yeah. So like, but I guess what I'll say just to transition into the second half of this conversation and rounding it out, it's this stuff, unfortunately, is more interesting to me than the boys themselves. I can't lie. This
Yeah.
superhero, like this super dynamic in this changing world with Homelander and everything going on with Homelander, it's a lot more interesting than trying to see Billy and the others kind of figure out the virus in episode 2. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I want the it's just there's
Yeah.
so much
No,
more to
listen,
chew on, right?
I
In the
totally
other
understand,
characters.
but this is why at least in episode 2 that gets saved by that last act of episode 2 where we see the rescue portion of the whole plan go down.
Right.
But you are right though. The soup version of this coin is a heck of a lot more interesting than the human version of this coin, and it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't think that the Homelander side of things was as interesting as Butcher's story, then we wouldn't be in season 5 right now and dealing with the story we are right now. And you're absolutely right. If you go back to season 1, and we spoke about this in our archives, go check that out. In season 1, Butcher essentially is like this superhero hunting person, and he needs to gather his boys in order to do this job. And this show has completely taken a turn in order to just feed the story properly. And the boys is just the title now. This is essentially Homelander's show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way because you are right, Tex. The Homelander and the Vought and the soup stuff and all of that stuff is a heck of a lot more interesting than Butcher. Like Butcher became interesting now because he's a soup now, and he has these crazy Venom Vecna Carnage powers, which
Right.
are uh, crazy strong and apparently like pose a real threat because even Homelander kind of sees it, and Homelander even calls him out on it. And I'm very curious to see how this affects Butcher in the long run because we see a turn going bit by bit here, which started in the previous season when he took the Compound V and tore apart. What was it? She was the vice president at the time, right?
Yeah, yeah, Newman. She killed Newman. So like,
Yeah,
or yeah, he killed Newman. So like, that's the whole thing too. Like, they're kind of looking at Butcher a different way, and then like you have Huey and Frenchie like caught up in the middle of it. Like Frenchie's kind of over it. Like, but at the same time, he understands that this is all going to go down either way. And
yeah.
Huey was still like, I think Butcher even kind of points out to him. He's like, "Yo, like you're a little too like optimistic and stuff like that, considering everything that's happened." And yeah, it's true. Like,
Yeah,
but that's also kind of the character Huey is at this
that's
point. Like,
Huey. Yeah,
yeah, like he's gonna like still see that there's a brighter way, and
yeah.
it in a show like this, in a story like this, you do need that aspect, right? Like you, unfortunately, yes, like in some cases you might be like, oh yeah, maybe Huey's doing a little too much, right? But then
But
you
then
do
also
need a
like
character like that,
it
right?
works. It absolutely it works 100% um for his character. And if we
Right,
remember, Huey is he's learned about the dark side, right? Remember when he
right,
did take a little bit of that compound V and he became that person who can walk through walls or whatever it was, or invisible, right? Like he was like invisible or something like that. Yeah. So he's known about that superpowered side of things, and he knows how terrible that power can be.
right.
And he's a perfect example of the shining light in a world of darkness. And he is this, white me baby face that we need in this show because he's the only really true good character. Because even
Yeah,
Starlight here, we've learned that, during the time that she's been solo while they've been in the camps, she's done some things that she's probably not 100% proud of, so even her um is really she's really not 100% good. So
yeah,
we do need a character like Huey here, especially to counter the effects of Bill the Butcher on everybody else, because
yeah.
Bill's turned into such a bad guy that Huey is definitely needed.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing with MM too. Like MM's going through that. Like
Yes.
he also, it's setting him up for like a big character death or like a fake out where he's like,
Mm,
it definitely feels like his personality is in his end his days place, right? Like he's come to accept that his end is near, and like he's making decisions that kind of, like saving that the crow girl, from the virus and all that stuff, like letting her go, and
yeah.
that whole thing. And it's just like, and then you have like Kimiko's part of it too, like she's now fully speaking after
She's
everything that,
stalking, which
yeah,
is
so like
crazy.
it's a wild move. It does take some getting used to, but I think that's the point. I I,
Yeah.
I saw some criticisms online saying like her lines seemed like dubbed over, like ADR. No, you're just not used to her speaking. Like
Yes, correct.
if you've seen this actress Karen Fukuhara in any other thing she's been in, that's just how she sounds. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just, I think that's the thing. People just aren't used to this character
Yeah,
talking after
and then
such a long
also
time.
because of how it just came about in her life too, she's pretty much an unfiltered child,
Yeah,
so it
yeah. She said
works.
she learned it through TikTok,
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah, through
okay,
TikTok,
yeah,
yeah, through TikTok. So it works. That explanation alone, kind of makes it known why her her dialogue is annoying. It's because, hey, like this is all she's heard while trying to learn how to speak again.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it definitely works for the character. It definitely puts them in situations that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like for instance, like when they encounter Homelander in episode 2 while trying to rescue Frenchie, Huey, and MM, she just blurts something out and Homelander
yeah,
completely slices her in half. So if she didn't speak, I don't think that scenario would have happened. So it does put them in situations where we can get more um development in the way of her and Frenchie's relationship. We get more
Yeah,
from her during the fight scenes. We get more of her relationship with Starlight. They're buddy buddies. So
you're right. You're right.
it
It's more
definitely
of a
adds to
yeah.
her character, regardless of how annoying it might sound at first. I know I definitely thought that she sounded a little bit annoying, but it works. It works. I can't really front because it definitely, as I said, it's gonna put them in situations that we haven't had before, and
Yeah.
will make things a lot more interesting since this is the last season. It's gonna make things interesting emotionally for Frenchie, for her, for us as the audience as well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the idea with these first two episodes, right? Like I think ultimately I will say all the decisions made so far, like nothing's really stood out as like, oh, this is a weird thing to do for the final season. No, it
Mm.
seems like okay, we're there, it's clear that
Yeah.
there's a final idea in mind and we're heading towards that. We're seeing character movements, right? And we're seeing the stories kind of overlap and it's like, okay, where is this going to go? And ultimately I'm interested, right? And I think you are too, Arturo. Like through
Yeah,
this conversation, I think
100%. Especially we see at the end of episode 2, things are not what they seem.
yeah,
The boys are all happy and giddy because they think that this virus works 100%. And lo and behold, we see in the distance an Undertaker shot
yeah.
of Soldier Boy,
It
right? And
totally
we're
is
a
Undertaker.
total Undertaker
Yeah.
shot of Soldier Boy, and we're like, oh snap! So the virus doesn't really work 100% because they're depending on this virus to kill Homelander. And remember, Soldier Boy is Homelander's father. That this is
Yeah.
where that he is the donor for Homelander. So if it's not affecting Soldier Boy, the boys have another thing coming. So I am excited to see where this takes us. And we will definitely be talking to you, buddies, again when we bring you episodes 3 and 4 later on this month. And let us know down below how you feel about the first 2 episodes of The Boys and all the previous seasons of The Boys that we have up on our archives. Thank you so much for listening. This has been The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. We are your hosts, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. A big shout out goes to you guys out there for listening and for watching. We have all these videos up on YouTube as well as anywhere you get your podcast streams. Big shout out goes to Del Virus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. And last but not least, folks, always remember it is a scary world out there, especially with the boys. But we are here to walk you through it.